Hi, my name is Shmuel, and I will be talking about what I think is happening in the news coverage of the Gaza war, especially on CNN, BBC, and New York Times. So, um, so I spend a lot of time listening, but I'm not a media expert. I'm actually an inventor of a few hundred patents. I'm an Israeli, so obviously I see things from an Israeli point of view, but still, I think what I will show you is interesting. This is about the websites. I don't watch TV. I'm told that the TV coverage is a lot more nuanced. It's meant for older audience. The younger audience maybe like it to be as anti-Israeli as what I will show you. And the reason I'm giving this lecture is that I'm really annoyed at those news sources. And I'm basically going there a few times a day just to get annoyed. And hopefully you will understand why I think they're totally biased against us. So before we start, what is the normal situation in the region? So basically, after a ceasefire, which is the lower left, Hamas will get rockets, will start planning, will put tunnels, will teach people, will work on getting some offensive capabilities, and then it would start attacking Israel shooting rockets, and this would be ignored. And then it would continue to shoot rockets, and this would be ignored. It will not be news. I go to the shelter from time to time. People in the south grew up going to the shelter all the time. Babies, well, not babies, toddlers, 2 years old, learn how to get to the shelter because they have to do it in 12 seconds. And this will not be news. And then eventually Israel will be annoyed and will start shooting back, and there will be a war. And as the Hamas is hiding in Gaza, civilians will die, and the world will denounce Israel. And then when there is a war, Hamas will eventually be losing. So the world will say there is something really bad going on. Hamas is losing, so there needs to be a ceasefire. There'll be a ceasefire, and this will repeat. Now, what we're having now is different, and the reason it's different is because the Hamas did something totally unprecedented. I mean, never happened. The worst day since the Holocaust. 1,400 people were killed. Children, babies, music festival, you know, the works. This talk is not about that. And the things that you might not be aware of is that there are a few 100,000 people that are now left their home, both in the north and the south, but we're talking about the south, and they're not coming back until Hamas is over, until Hamas is gone, which means we're not going to go back to this cycle, and it's going to be nasty. So this is the situation in general. This talk is about fake news. Fake news is a problem, but bias actually is a bigger problem. Bias is reporting on things that you want to report and ignoring things that you don't want to report, and it's more dangerous because you can't show it case by case. So I previously gave a talk on bias, and there is a strong bias, and there is an older very good article here mentioned here on the bias of the media regarding Israel. Yesterday, CNN went with the IDF into Gaza, and they were not allowed to show, I mean, they had to share with the IDF what it is that they're showing, because, you know, it's dangerous for the military if the CNN would show what they are doing and what they are doing. So the first part of this clip that CNN shows what's happening with the IDF is them explaining, yes, it's going to be biased because we have to share, we have to get approval from the IDF to show what it is that we are showing you, and that is as it should be because it is biased. What they're not telling you is that every single thing that they're sending out of Gaza is biased. If they send something the Hamas does not like, they are lucky to be alive, but they're not trying to send something the Hamas doesn't like. So somehow, even though the Hamas shot 40,000 rockets, you'll never see them showing a rocket. Not only that, they actually get what they share not from, well, basically directly from the Hamas, from people working for the Hamas, and they show them, and on those things, they never tell you, we are showing you what the Hamas is allowing us to show. They don't even want to tell you that, or maybe they want, but they can't. So everything you get from Gaza is totally biased, but unlike when they are with the army, they don't tell you that. In Israel, it's not biased. They share whatever they want, usually things that are against Israel. But so you have not seen in the war many things that you should have seen. You have not seen that the Houthis have been attacking hospital in Egypt, not because it's something the Hamas does not allow, just it's not against Israel, so it's not very interesting. Fake news is simple, and this talk is about fake. And the reason it's simple is that on a case by case, you can show that it is fake. So what does it mean to be fake? Fake is if the report is wrong. So you said something and it's wrong, and you know it's wrong, then it's fake. Well, even if you don't know, but you could have checked, you didn't check, could be fake. But it can also be right, but gives the wrong impression. For example, Israel did not do something. And the reporter knows that he didn't do that, so it can't report that they did that, otherwise it'll be fake news. But what it can report is Palestinians said that Israel did something. They did say that. It is true that the Palestinian did say that. But when the reporter knows the event is false, this is fake. Sometimes they take something out of context. For example, if a robber hijacked an ambulance and the police shoot at the robbers, and the news is the robber hijacked the ambulance, or maybe the news is the police shoot at the robber. But if the headline is the police shoot at the ambulance, it is true, but it is fake. It's also fake if the reporter claims that she knows something to be a fact, and it turned out to be false. So part of the fake is not only what she reports to be fake, but also claiming her to know. And that's important because people, when the reporters stress that they actually know what they're talking about, people take them seriously. Okay, so with this longish introduction, let's get to the business of showing how the report in Israel look like. So the first thing is, after Hamas goes in, kills civilians in ways which are sort of unimaginable. I mean, like, if that is not terrorism, what could be terrorism? Killing babies, killing families, burning them, all those things. I'm not going to repeat them. BBC, CNN, they will not call them terrorists, they will call them militants. And maybe killing Jews is not terror, but for them, it's militants. And then from the fourth day, they will start reporting that there's a humanitarian catastrophe and the fuel is ending, even though they know the fuel is not ending and the Hamas has fuel and they have fuels. And obviously, if it was ending 3 weeks ago, it should have ended. And they will report it time after time. This will be all what they're reporting, like the cycle that I told you about, basically calling for a ceasefire, saying Israel should finish its attack and let the Hamas regroup like it always does. Not only that, Israel should give the Hamas things like fuel and stuff. So they will report day of the days that this is the last day that things will happen. And then, of course, there is call for truce because Hamas already did its attack, so there's no point in continuing the war. And this will be the main thing in the reports. As an example of what I just said before, so let's look at the Hamas tunnel. So what are the facts? The following are facts. And everybody knows that they are facts, or at least maybe not the last one, but you can check the last one as well. So Hamas prepared for this war. It has fuel, it has ammunition, it brags that it prepared that. It has 1 million liters of fuel. It has weapons. It has everything ready for 3 to 6 months. And Hamas says, this is officially Hamas saying on Al Jazeera, that they're not going to take, I mean, they are the government of Gaza, but they're not going to take care of the Gaza. They are in charge of the tunnels. Israel should be the one supplying the Gazans. And the tunnels are under the civilians, and they use them as a human shield. When they run away, the Hamas shoots them. So when Israel tells them the civilians to go to some other place, the Hamas would shoot them sometimes, and bomb them, and of course blame Israel. And the Hamas actually take fuel from hospitals. Those hospitals, remember, that didn't have fuel, and the Hamas does have fuel, but it takes fuel from the hospital and expect Israel to continue to supply fuel to the hospital and to the Hamas even during the war. And there is a reason it continued to supply, because it worked last time. Why not this time? It expects Israel to continue to supply. So if you look at on the left side here, you will see Israel under war and the Hamas siphon fuel, and that's sort of news. If you look at the CNN reporting of all this, well, they think that the Gaza Metro is mysterious. Mysterious is a nice word. It's a positive word, and this is reporting on this story. Okay, so now let's get into more serious things. So the hospital story, it was a huge story, the biggest story in the world for a couple of days, or maybe even more. So what's the story? What actually happened is that an Islamic rocket falls on a hospital parking lot and it kills between 30 to 100, I don't know, because, and the reason I don't know is because we have no evidence, because the Hamas cleared all the evidence and won't let anybody see the evidence. And this is something that they report. The Hamas is not willing to see the evidence, maybe because it doesn't want them to see the evidence. So what's the story? The story will be Israel attacked the hospital, 500 deaths, the hospital is gone. And of course, Israel denies that, and later is like in hours, they will know it's not true. When it's not true, they will say, Palestinians say Israel attacked the hospital, 500 deaths. Now, Palestinians did say that. Israel did not attack the hospital, there were not 500 deaths, but the title is fine as far as New York Times, BBC, CNN are concerned. When they're making fun of, because everybody knows it's not true, I mean, like, there have been proof all over the place that even they acknowledge, they will not say Israel did not shoot the hospital. They will not be outraged by the Islamic Jihad shooting the hospital. They will say, this is what we know. And then there will be continuing discussion about the outrage about Israel shooting the hospital, even if they know the hospital was not bombed and it was not by Israel. So there'll be consequences. There'll be huge demonstration talking about war crimes in the UN, talking about war crimes in all sorts of places, until they find it's not Israel, and then it will all die down. There will not be discussions of war crime by somebody who is not Israel. So what we see here, we see the New York Times, Israel strike, kill hundreds in hospital, and it's a picture of a different place. I mean, later they will have a picture of the parking lot and still say Israel killed, destroyed the hospital. The hospital was not destroyed. That's a wrong picture. In the CNN, in the breaking news, if you go into this clip, then the reporter there says she knows it for a fact that this is what happens. She stressed that she knows it for a fact when it didn't happen. So not only are they lying about with the title, I mean, okay, they say Hamas says that, but they're lying in the title because it didn't happen, and they know it didn't happen. They're stressing that they know that it actually did happen. So there'll be lots of talks about outrage, about protest, about suffering. And all this is while CNN already knows that it's not Israel. They know. So it will be the center of the news. There'll be many articles. And they actually know that the hospital is there. It was a parking lot. It was Islamic Jihad. And they will foster outrage for all that worse. And this will be the main coverage of those news sources for days, while knowing it's not Israel. So once they have to say it's not Israel, then what kind of reaction would they have to apologize Or will they apologize? So the New York Times, Hamas failed to make the case. Say, no, it's not true. The hospital was even not struck. It's the parking lot. But that's just Hamas failed to make the case. It's not, we know that Israel is not do. Or forensic analysis examined Gaza blast. Yeah, we know what happened, but we're not going to say that, right? And then they sort of admit the error, right? So, sorry about the red thing. It should be a bit to the left, to the bottom. So New York Times admit the errors. Well, does it admit the error? On the bottom right, you'll see a closer look. That's a closer look at the key evidence is not admitting the error. Or the most it would do is in the front page, it would say the New York Times has published an editorial note about its early coverage of an explosion in a Gaza city. So it doesn't say we were wrong. It doesn't say in the title, it doesn't say it was Islamic Jihad who shot the bomb. It doesn't say anything. It just said an editorial note. Who cares about the editorial note? Who goes into the editorial note? Is it the same as Israel bombed an hospital with 500 deaths? No, it's nothing. No, nothing will be done to the Hamas, right? I mean, it's not important. Okay, second story. So the Hamas goes into Israel, killing people and brutally doing all sorts of things, which we are not going to discuss too much. And they come with a plan, and the plan is to do what it is that they did, and to share it with the world on social media. They do it on their own social media, and they do it on the people that they kill. They take the phone and they share it on the social media. They come to attack daycares. They come to attack schools. Everything is planned in advance and shared. And the goal is to traumatize Israel, and it is traumatized. Now, Israel does a few screening for reporters in which they will show what the Hamas did. And this would include in Israel documents from the Hamas, and will include the GoPro pictures that shows what I mean, beheading and things like the kind of things that we don't want to see, or at least it's not good for your mental health to see. We don't see, and the people who go there, many of them have to quit in the middle because they can't take it. But all of them are, well, not all of them. We'll see that CNN is not, but they're outraged by what it is that they see, what the Hamas, and you get all sorts of headlines like the Hamas brutality. People will talk about it's worse than ISIS. We'll talk about the terrorists intentionally targeting elementary school and stuff. So those will be sort of like normal headlines. What would be CNN headlines? So when they were shared, this is two different people that were showing two different screening, one in the United States, one in Israel. When they see it in Israel, they are impressed. They are impressed. The Hamas has tactics, and they understand the tactics. After showing the beheading and stuff, they're going to be talking about the GoPro and the use of social media. And then, you know, in the show, they said, well, they use that and the tactics and the GoPro and all those interesting things to behead and stuff. But the title is not about the beheading or anything. It's about the tactics. And they have actually manuals for GoPros. They are so smart, those Hamas. This is what we learned from seeing what they did. Now, later, this will be shown in the United States. And this would be, why is Israel showing this to us? This will be the title. I mean, if you go inside, you will see, yes, all sorts of nasty things we saw the Hamas do, and they actually pictured it so we could see it. But the title is, why is Israel showing images? I mean, what is it? Why is Israel showing it? It's not anything about the Hamas. It's not about Hamas being terrorist, of course. No, terrorist is not nice to say. It's an attack. But why is Israel showing it? This is what CNN learned. Okay, second story. So first, let's start with the facts of the story. The facts are actually not contested here. There is no argument about the facts. So Israel shot an ambulance. And the ambulance was part of a Red Cross convoy, but did not belong to the Red Cross convoy. And no one from the Red Cross convoy was injured. And Israel says that the ambulance was used to move Hamas terrorists. And Hamas says that 15 died. And there is no argument about those facts. I mean, those are all facts. Nobody argue about them. And it could be argued that somebody could say that Israel, that Hamas did not use it, it was civilians, but they actually do not say that. So there is no contest about the facts, nothing. And if you see here from the Wall Street Journal, there's an article that says, the headline that says that Israel strikes an ambulance carrying Hamas militants. This is what we say, and it's fine. This is what we say. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not true. This is a reasonable headline. What would be CNN take on this story? And remember, in this story, facts are not argued. CNN would agree to the same facts, or did agree to the same facts. So what CNN said was, Israel admits strike on an ambulance. This is what they think. So it's not the story that Hamas uses the ambulance. This could be one story. It's not that Israel attacked Hamas using an ambulance. No, it's Israel admits strike on ambulance. If you go inside, you will see all the facts that I cited. This is what CNN finds interesting for the headlines. And then Israel ambulance strikes outcry. Of course it strikes outcry because Israel strikes an ambulance. This is what CNN found interesting, not that Hamas is using ambulances and risk all the people using ambulances. So I don't know why we had such biased reporting. In fake news, it is possible that to report from Gaza, CNN and BBC and all those have to be nice to Hamas, really nice. It's also possible, I mean, it is true. I mean, it's not even possible. It's a fact. You have to be nice, otherwise you will not report there. And they get report from the locals, and some of the locals work for Hamas, and we'll talk about those locals in a moment. So the next two are conjectures, and I don't know them to be true. I think they might be true. So I'm told that CNN is a lot more, a lot less biased. And that's a mistake here. And the reason is that it's meant for older people, and the internet is for younger progressive. And maybe they think that the younger progressive like them to be a lot more against Israel, or that's why they do it, maybe, conjecture. The other one is that the people who work for CNN, New York Times, and BBC, this is what they think, that Israel should be gone or something. So another way to get biasing is to interview randomized people, which happen to be never vetting them and happen to be people who are really against Israel. So CNN is interviewing somebody, and she says, as a woman, as a girl, all I want is life, to educate and to graduate and have a job and a family. She's 22 years old. She looks nice. They interview him. But if you look at what she posts, she actually wants to kill Jews herself, not in theory, and thinks that the Israeli treatment of Israeli female teenager by Hamas kidnapping university is justified, and praise Hitler, and all sorts of things. And those are the people that take as the representative of the Gaza who want only peaceful life. So it's easy to find that, and either CNN is grossly incompetent, or they really hate the Jews in Israel, or of course both. And she was popular. She was interviewed by CNN and BBC and stuff. Okay, those are the people they interview. What about the people that work there? So CNN had to release people who are pro-Hitler, and BBC had to release people who are pro-Hitler. And they say that in Arabic, BBC in Arabic is a lot more biased than the BBC that I see, and the BBC that I see is extremely biased. And New York Times did more than that. It not only, unlike the other people who released, he actually rehired people who are pro-Hitler. So maybe the reporters don't like Israel all that much. Maybe the pool that they take reporters from are young people that are chosen because they belong to a group that think that Israel should be gone. Many of them praising Hitler, and therefore you get such reporting. I don't know, maybe. So you have the New York Times writer who was acquitted quits after she accused. She was actually fired, but after she left, she sent an open letter, and she said that New York Times, she's not going to work for a place that is so pro-Israeli. So maybe for her, Israel, New York Times is pro-Israeli. I do not know. New York Times does not openly advocate for the removal of Israel, which might make it pro-Israel in some circuits. There are consequences to that. So New York Times says Jewish viewers find refuge in Fox News, and yeah, they will. Jewish viewers have problems with the New York Times. They had problems in the past, in World War II, and ever after, and still have problems with the New York Times. And CNN explained how Hamas is attempting and successfully to control the narratives. And it seems to be, oh, it's not quite working for Hamas, but maybe. So before ending, I just want to summarize. CNN, New York Times, BBC are reporting from Gaza. They have to do what the Hamas tell them. They don't tell you that they have to do what the Hamas tell them. They are totally biased, which I talked about in other lectures, but in this one I'm talking about fake. They don't really care. They seem to take everything the Hamas takes at at face value. And when they find out they're wrong, which is what we have here, which does happen often, they don't apologize. They don't say we were wrong. Now, they're really worried about the situation of the Muslims in America now, which I assume is not nice. I mean, yeah, maybe people don't like Muslims and are worried about terrorists and stuff and saying that all Muslims are terrorists, which is not true. So being a Muslim will not be nice. But those Muslims sure make life hard for the Jews. So those are pictures from my daughter. She lives in Urbana-Champaign. And as you can see, this is the flag of Israel that she put on her floor, on her window, and somebody wrote on it "Free Palestine." The next flag she would put, which is yesterday, was covered with red to show maybe what they're going to do to Jews. She goes to a demonstration, and people say, "Well, we want to remove Israel from the river to the sea. No Jews there, and maybe no Jews at all in the world to make the world clean." So life is hard now for Jews in the USA, and as a result, immigration is bigger than it was in a very long time. Lots of people are immigrating now to Israel, and it seems strange that all those people that want to drive the Jews away from Israel are driving the Jews to Israel. I hope you find the talk interesting. Thanks for listening.